No, you find a way to win games, and that's what it comes down to. And there's all three phases had a part in that game, and finding a way to win. Offensively, obviously in the second half, what we're able to do on offense and continue to put points on the board was big. But the reality of it is defensively, we're down by 17, put the defense in a really bad spot. They got consecutive stops to allow us to try to get some momentum and get going. And certainly, in the second overtime, they forced a field goal, which they actually missed, but ended up getting to reattempt it. And they had some stops early in the game that allowed us to kind of get going a little bit. So everyone had a role in it. On special teams, our PAT field goal operation was really good. I thought, obviously we forced a turnover on a punt. All those things are good. So we're doing things in spots that are really good. I think it's almost flipped a little bit where defensively we're not doing it as consistently as we'd like to. But that's part of it. So this week, like I said, we have a lot of work to do this week. And, I think the main thing we got to do is build some confidence back in some guys that are really good players for us that are not playing the way that they have played and we expect them to. But it's a great time to do it, coming off of a win. Being 1-0 in conference, and certainly, there's a lot in front of us, including a really, really good James Madison opponent that's coming up here in a couple weeks.
You basically played a penalty-free game. The one penalty was bogus. With all the new guys that you had in playing bigger roles, that had to be huge.
Well, I think that was something that was a key, to the game for us. Where the week before I felt like the penalties cost us the game, and that's, y'all ask, how do you do it? How do you fix it? Well, you just continue to coach it and continue to coach the discipline that it takes. And, we had a couple of things in practice last week that it's like, when we get in the meetings, you need to tell so-and-so, this is a penalty. This is undisciplined. This is what happens. So, that was huge for us. We stayed out of our own way a little bit. And that was something that, other than the 2 turnovers on offense, you really didn't give them a whole lot there. It's a lack of consistency and execution. We talked about it after the game. It was like, is it too much? No, it's not too much. It's base calls that we've been running a long time, and it's guys that are out of position. So if you're out of position, that puts you in a tough spot to make a tackle, right? And then whenever you're in position to make a tackle, you run your feet, you keep your eyes up, you strike, you wrap up, you run your feet, and you finish the tackle. And it's not one thing. It's, you got some guys that are just trying to run through and just drop a shoulder. You got some guys that are diving and going low, which we don't do. We don't practice that. We thud practice every day. You got some guys that are stopping their feet. And then, certainly every now and then, when you drop your head, you're going to miss. So, we've worked really hard. This week is going to be, fundamentals and tackling all week, and that's what we got to do because we got guys that are capable and they show it over and over. But that's, it just comes down to using fundamentals, and that's how you play ball, man. The game, I think it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter what level you're at or how big the game is. Like, your fundamentals are the things that should carry you through all of that. And so we've got to just continue to work that because we obviously haven't done a good enough job of coaching it and teaching it because it hasn't taken.
You alluded after the game to looking back and wondering if you guys were doing too much. It sounds like you guys kind of decided maybe that wasn't the case.
I don't think we are. I go back through the calls that we got. It's not that we have this overload of calls. We had a couple checks that we had in some empty 4 open things that we practiced all week that we had in there. The pressures that we had that were called. We got a pressure that we've been running since, I don't want to say day 1, but probably day 4 in fall camp. That it's not a difficult. We got one guy doesn't go, and it's these are things that are just I don't know. There's lack of a better term. We got to go perform when it's time to perform, and when we do, we have success. And then there's a lot of things out there that looked really good, but there's just way too many things that are happening that shouldn't be happening, and that's I don't know. You got to communicate better when you're out there, and you got to go do your job.
So how different is your bye week script going to be this week than it's been the first 3?
Well, that's always the hard part in a bye week is like how much work versus rest is what you need. The bottom line is that we need a lot of work, but we don't have a lot of bodies. And so we're going to have to manage that, instead of going in 3 groups, which is typically what we do, 1s, 2s, and 3s, just going to be 1s and 2s, because that's really all we got, So, we're going to still, we're going to try to have a similar type of practice to what we usually have. But the reality of it is, we still, we need the work. It's just, we don't have the bodies to do the way that I would typically do it. So, we're going to practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week. And they'll be off on Friday, Saturday, and we'll come back Sunday, and we'll have our Tier 1 Sunday, which we'll actually practice on Sunday, since they'll have a couple days off. But, yeah, it's a little different, the way that how many guys we're able to rep and practice.
What does a win like Saturday say to the rest of the Sun Belt Conference about playing at Our Lady of Lourdes Stadium?
Yeah, I don't know what it says about anything. It just – look, the name of the game every week is to win. We're not here to make statements. We're one at a time. And to be honest with you, all we're worried about is finding a way to win the next one. It's not about anything other than that. We got a great place to play. I think it's a great environment. Whenever we're playing good and it's packed and all that stuff. But for us, it's not about statements, man. We got a lot of things in our building that we got to fix. We're not worried about what anybody else thinks. We got to keep our nose down and keep grinding.
Considering the injuries on the offensive line that was suffered last week, what did you make of the performance from that group on Saturday?
Well, I thought that was something that you got to be really proud of. You take Jackson, move him to right tackle, and he played really well there. Matt B and Jacoby Isom had to step up at guard and play a whole bunch. Cooper Fordham's continued to play great. Caden Morrow and Bryant Williams stepped up, on the left side and played really good football. And, just those guys elevated their game when we really needed them to. We're still able to run the ball effectively. Really, pass protection was really – we had 1 sack. That was avoidable, but it was good play by them, but we could have fixed that. And you had pressure a couple times, but not nearly to the extent that we've had really at times even this year when everybody was healthy. So, no, that group was outstanding. And, Steve and PJ and those guys did a great job getting them ready to go play and building confidence in them. And, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever been a part of an offensive staff that did a better job of breathing life into their kids all week and getting them ready to play and getting them to believe. You talk about the O-line, but how about dang Del Martin and Charles Robertson and Rajee Dennis made a couple plays out there and guys that have been backup. Landon Strother that their time, they've been sitting there. They haven't been counted on a whole lot in the games yet this year to step up and go play. And I think I think coaches breathe life into their players, and I think coaches breed confidence in them, and I think they find ways to get them to perform well and get them to believe in themselves. And then you put them out there, and once you get to Saturday, man, you just got to go watch them work. And those guys did it. They did a heck of a job.
You mentioned Landon Strother. Not only did he kind of get the passing game going with catching a high ball and with that first scoring drive, but also he did some return stuff. Just talk about what he's done in camp as a still pretty young player to kind of honor that, the time he's got.
So being completely honest, coming out of spring, we thought he was going to be in the 2-deep rotation with the spring that he had. In fall camp, I didn't feel like he had a great fall camp. I felt like he just kind of came and went a little bit. Like it wasn't like it was in the spring where every day you're like, man, like this guy. So, in fall camp, I was kind of like, oh, well, maybe it's not time yet, And but he was taking reps like in the 3-man rotation, at receiver, and as the season went on, he kind of starts to show up a little bit more and making plays, and felt like he was continuing to kind of get back to kind of what we felt he was going to be in the spring, and it was really a no-brainer for us to put him back at punt returner. He's really smart, savvy football player, but he's got elite hands. And decision making. So it was kind of easy because you felt like, all right, he's getting himself back into playing where we thought he was going to play. The punt return, really, the last one where he chose to field that ball was huge in that 2-minute drive. If he lets that thing roll, that ball's probably going to roll down inside the 10-yard line with the pace and the velocity it had on it. So he couldn't get to it. The kick was kind of low and short, but the decision to field it and stop the roll right there was huge. I mean, that adds 15 more yards to the drive. When we score with 20-something seconds left, you might not have time to get down there if that ball rolls down inside the 10. So, he did a really good job. And you're right, that first catch he made kind of got us going a little bit, right? We were 3 and out, and then we get a field goal that we should have had a touchdown on after a muff punt. But he makes a big catch on that play and then kind of gets the ball rolling a little bit. So it was really good to see. He's a guy that just wasn't sure if it was his time yet or not now. Certainly, with all the things we got going on, he was forced into action. He showed up, so it shows he's ready.
After a performance like that from lunch, how do you guys move forward when it comes to the quarterback position with him and Daniel?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and give you any earth-shattering news before I talk to the guys on our team, but I think it's, the guy played really good. He's got to play quarterback for us.
You talked about the wideouts, but you also had some guys step up in the back end on the defensive side that hadn't had a lot of experience.
Colin Jacob is probably the one, I guess, that you're talking about. He did. He stepped in and played well. We just got some guys on the back end that aren't playing with as much confidence as they have in the past, and we got to get that back because they're really good players, and they've played really good for us for some of them for a long time here. So we just got to get that back. But that's part of being a part of a team. When your number's called and they need you to go in there and go compete and go work. You do your job, and Colin has worked really hard and he was ready for his opportunity and really played well. I thought Jake St. Andre was a huge spark for us too in the second half. He didn't play much in the first half. In the second half, played really good. There's a bunch of guys that step in there. Maxie Baudouin is the same thing. In the second half, that made some really big plays for us. And in the overtime period, he's the one who kind of got him on first down off schedule a little bit and made him throw the football a little bit. So, there was a lot of guys that stepped up, and that's it's part of being a part of a team, man. You got to be ready when your number's called.
What's the injury situation report-wide after the game?
Yeah, the injury report is not real good. If we had to practice today, we'd have a number of key players that are out. With Zylan, with Lunch, Duggar, Caden Jensen, we'd have 5 or 6 guys are out if we had to practice today. So. We'll see the extent of all that naturally. Hopefully it's not as bad, as some of the other ones we've had, but it's not good.
So how many of those guys, is there still hope that they could play in Virginia?
I'm hoping all of them can.